Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whisky. My name's Vin PF, and on today's episode we're going to be covering the Ardbeg Wee Beastie 5-year-old. I should start this episode with a little bit of an apology. Now, it occurred to me when I was doing my research for this DRAM that I don't think I'd covered a age-stated Scotch for a short while, and when I went back through my list, I've covered many Scotches this year, but the last time I covered an actually age-stated Scotch, not a vintage, but an age-stated Scotch, was about 7 months ago, which is a long time. So yeah, a massive apology for that. I don't really kind of design my videos. I don't really have I have a cue, but I don't really kind of like say this is what I'm doing here, this is what I'm doing here, blah 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 blah. I just kind of cover whatever I feel like covering that week. Sometimes that's something I've just got in, or something interesting, but that's kind of what No Nonsense Whisky is all about, right? I'm on a journey of discovery, same as hopefully most of you watching will be as well, and I'm covering things that I find interesting. Now, that's not to say that I don't find this interesting, but I have been sitting on this bottle for nearly a year, you know. I mean, look, I'm nearly halfway down it, and I had to move it. You can just about see through the green bottle, yeah, about there. And I picked this up probably last winter, and it's kind of been sat on my review queue, and I drank it and I enjoyed it, and then I had to put it into my kind of review. I've got a review queue down here somewhere that you can't really see, and I moved it there to try and keep it out of myself because I thought I was going to finish this before I actually got around to reviewing it. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure why I haven't covered it yet, but I'm going to sort of tell myself that it's because it's now winter, and sort of like, you know, people don't really tend to consume much whiskey in the summer. Obviously, people like we do, but as a general populace, people tend to move on to other things in the summer. Now we're back in winter, it feels right to cover some real dirty peat. So here we are. But to the people who are more interested in Scotch than anything else, again, I apologise, but the one thing you will be interested in, I've got a massive run of Scotch on the run up to Christmas, and maybe even a little bit beyond. All the Scotches that I've had sat in the queue just waiting to be covered are now going to get covered. So I've got a lot of Scotch coming up. If that's something you're interested in, make sure you've hit the subscribe button below because it's coming your way. Let's get back onto this one then. So here we have the Ardbeg Wee Beastie 5-year-old. This came out a couple of years ago, and to, you know, some sort of fanfare, it's nice to have a new Ardbeg that we can afford. The Ardbeg 10 is kind of a bit of a mainstay. You know, we all know about the Ardbeg 10, and that's been sort of creeping up in price a little bit, but, you know, most places it's stayed around that sort of 45, 50 quid, sometimes pushing over that 50 quid. It's quite expensive, I think, but it's still a lovely jam. Haven't had it in a while. But it's nice to have an age-stated Scotch that's proud to put a youthful number on it. 5 is fairly youthful for what we think of a whiskey. Obviously, you know, we know that whiskey has to be 3 years to be called whiskey, and then so the minimum age statement you're going to get is a 3. So to put 5 is a bold thing, and I really like that. You know, young whiskey is not to be overlooked when it's good, and that's something we'll delve into with this one here. A few other keywords that you're going to want to know on the label. Non-chill filtered, we like that. There's no wording here to say about added colour, but, you know, maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but I know Ardbeg have got a bit of a history of adding colour, so we're probably going to assume it has got added colour in it. Won't be talking about colour. And the ABV, which is 47.4, which is a pretty good ABV, we like that. Not sure why they bother with the 0.4, maybe it means something, I don't know. So this is a whiskey that's been aged in ex-bourbon and ex-Oloroso casks, I think. Maybe it's just ex-sherry, but Oloroso I think it is. And, you know, it's typical Ardbeg fare. Now, you know, if you haven't heard of Ardbeg before, then, you know, I can't imagine why you'd be watching the video, but it's a very well-known distillery on Islay, and they're one of like the dirtiest peats going. You know, they're quite famous around the world now because they managed to kind of keep going through all kinds of turmoil and whatnot. Been around for hundreds of years. And it's just a great whiskey, great whiskey. So nice to have a new one in the range. Nice to have one that's an age-stated that isn't NAS. Though I have to say my favourite is the Corobiekin. Really love that. Let's get into the actual dram then. Less wittery, more onto it. Not talking about the colour today, but that's what it looks like. Let's get onto the nose. Okay, now I'm a fan of Ardbeg. And this sits me right at home with their kind of core flavours. We're getting that kind of real big seaweed, that sea air, that brine, that saltiness, mixed in with that kind of that dirty peat. You know, this is like one of the more pretentious things I go on about is the stages of a bonfire when I'm talking about peat or smoke in general. Sometimes you get a kind of a lively smokiness that comes from like standing next to a fire, and then you get that kind of like when the fire's gone out and it's the next morning, that ashy kind of dirtiness. That's like Lefroy. This is like that. It's the moment when the flames die down and the smoke comes out, and this is what I get from that. Bit weird, I know. Bear with me on that, but it's just classic Ardbeg, and it's just lovely on the nose. It's not overly complex. I'm not picking out too much extra stuff. The peat is obviously very overbearing. For me, I'm getting things like leather and like almost like an asphalt kind of vibe. If you've ever been next to a lorry that's like dropping asphalt, these are all weird tasty notes. To people that don't like peat, you think to yourself, why would anyone want to drink something like that? But to people that do like peat, people are thinking, yeah, I'm into that. Okay, let's get onto the palate. Yeah, again, typical stuff. It's not too dissimilar to other Ardbegs, I don't think. Very much in that vein. And there's not really too many tasty notes. It's the same as what I've said before. That brine, that seaweed, that kind of tar, that really long salty stuff going on. Just lovely. If you like Ardbeg, I think you'll like this. Now, where it sits in the range for me, I think it's it's not as good as the 10. You know, this is a common theme. It's not as good as a 10. In my opinion, it's better than the Anoa. I don't know how you pronounce that, but I think it's better than that. I never got on with that DRAM, to be honest. Now, I paid about £34 for this about last year, some sort of time, and I picked it up in Tesco's, saw it. I didn't think I'd ever see this on the shelves in a supermarket, so I just didn't do any research, picked it up. Now, £34 seems to be about the going rate for something like this. You can get it cheaper. That's the key thing about this I think I ever paid. And if you wait long enough, you'll see a deal on Amazon or something for maybe 30 or a little bit less. And I think that's an ideal price range for something like this. It's significantly cheaper than the 10 to warrant the difference, I think. And I kind of, maybe not ignore the Enoa, but I'm not really into it. So for me, this fits perfectly. And then obviously the Korovieken is much higher, Ugadal is much higher than even the 10. So yeah, we can just, basically what I'm trying to say is I think it sits perfectly in the range for what it is. They've priced it well. You've got an age-stated Scotch that's non-chill filtered, that's a decent ABV. Yes, it's probably added colour. And if you're not into peat, then obviously disregard all of this because you're probably not going to like it. It's definitely not a gateway into peat. This is real heavy, boggy peat. But for me, an absolute winner. Even at £34, I don't feel shortchanged. Since then, I've now seen a lot of deals with it, and I know that I could have got it cheaper. That's the only thing that's niggling at me. But yeah, like I said, don't feel shortchanged. So for me, yeah, a winner, absolute winner. If you're into Ardbeg, give it a go. If you've been holding off on it, whatever. I imagine a lot of you have tried this, so please let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I would love to know your opinions because I know this is a bit of a field divider, especially from amongst people that really love the higher quality Ardbegs, let's say. And again, going full circle on that, yes, the higher quality Ardbegs are better than this, but for the price difference, this is justified. I think that's fair enough. I'm going to enjoy my dram with this, and finally, I can move this to the drinking cupboard, and I can finally kill this bottle with joy over the winter. See you again on more videos.